Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the session, the CBI Webinar, Avoiding Border Rejections in Spices and Herbs. So just some important messages before we start. We cannot see or hear you. So if you want to ask us questions about the webinar, about the content, please use the questions tab you see on the right of your screen in the menu. This will be recorded and it will be published afterwards, and we will also share our presentation with you, so you don't need to write down or make pictures. You'll as a participant to this webinar, you will receive all the information that is shown today. We have this webinar about exporting spice and herbs to Europe, and then specifically on avoiding border rejections in the spices. So our speakers for today, I'm Thomas Frank, I'm the project manager for market intelligence, and we'll do this brief introduction. And then our international consultant Warner will talk about the notifications on RASEF and do the analysis. So what are the main risks? And we have Stefano Trumpi as the managing director of Web James and the chairman of the European Spice Association. And we have Bharat Maskai, who is the director of who is the director of SBS Lakshmi, and we'll have some practical case studies on how you can work best to avoiding border rejections. So this is the agenda. As I just told, we have like the key risks, and we have the quality assessment of Stefano, and then we have some time for questions, and then Bharat Maskai will talk about his success story of an exporter. I will briefly tell you something about CBI. CBI is for transforming trade together. We organize expert coaching projects with SMEs to strengthen their sustainability through exports. And we offer practical solutions for the bottlenecks in the export value chain. And we create all the knowledge and networks. Sorry. The CBI projects have a focus on sustainable production and export as a means to create decent jobs, and we work for a long-term sector development. Our projects have a duration of 4 to 5 years, and we try to make use of local knowledge as much as possible. Currently, we have spices projects in Ethiopia and in Nigeria. In our project, we work with all kinds of institutions, the NGOs, the governments and sector organizations, producers, SME exporters, international buyers from Europe. And then, of course, we have our important market information. I invite you to go to the CBI market information website and go to the sector exporting spices and herbs. And you will find studies on trends and opportunities, understanding the buyer requirements, how to find buyers, how to organize for export. On the right of this page, you see the product fact sheets we have. We have on all kinds of different spices, we have product fact sheets on exporting this product to Europe. And we have fact sheets, tip studies on building your business. And we have studies on how to be sustainable and social responsible. So please go to our website and learn about this. So next I will give the word to Warner, who will start his presentation. So Warner, I will make you the presenter now. Yes, Werner?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There I am. There I am. Welcome, everybody. I'm shortly talking about the key risks in the EU spices and herbs market, based on an analysis of the Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed, which is a database in which you can see notifications for hazards and non-compliance issues with all kinds of products, including spices and herbs. Organizing my screen. The Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed is the system that tracks risks to food safety and environmental threats related to food products, including spices and herbs. It's the uniform platform for the whole European Union. The issues reported here can be notified by all kind of players in the European Union involved. Like these players can be official bodies that test products at market entry, but notifications can also take place later while the products are in a European market, and even they can originate from consumers. For example, when they find foreign matter like glass in a jar of spices. The notification can also be made by processors, retailers, etc. So, in recent years, the number of serious notifications for herbs and spices has remained relatively high. And if we look at the development over the past 5 years, we see a sharp rise in 2021. And why is that? It's an interesting question, and there are several factors actually that played a role there. In the beginning, as a major issue in the late 2020, there were high levels of ethylene oxide found in products. It's a banned pesticide in the European Union, obviously. These were initially detected in sesame seeds imported from India, and these findings were triggering widespread recalls all across Europe. Later on, that contamination was also found in more products, including herbs and spices, and well, that led to stricter import controls and also mandatory testing. It caused a sharp increase in Rapid Alert System food feed notifications from 2021 onward. And also at that time, European Commission consolidated information sharing among member states through this unified new online platform, RSF. So this streamlined reporting processes, making it easier and faster to report issues. So that also led to the rise in numbers visible here. I must say that the figures here, they show the notifications for spices and herbs per year, but they include fresh spices and herbs too. If you, in the Rapid Alert System, there's a special category of spices and herbs, but it includes the fresh spices and herbs too. That's an important note to be made here. If we would deduct the fresh spices and herbs, fresh herbs mainly, then we would still have 275 per year, approximately. If we look at the total number of notifications, there are at least 140 border rejections per year. That is, the border rejections are obviously a big deal for exporters. They can harm your reputation and also lead to additional costs, obviously. So avoiding them is crucial. We also have another category of, this is an example of a border rejection notification. This is how it looks like in the rapid alert system. You can click on an issue and you find all the details. This involves border rejection of cumin originating from India, and there was a problem due to chlorpyrifos residues found in this product. Another category of issues are notifications labeled as alert notifications. These they are not less serious, but they are also serious. They are detected when the product is already on the market, so it's already within European market, but still prompting immediate actions. This is an example of such an alert. In this case, it involves natural toxins, plant toxins in oregano from Turkey. If we look at the main reasons for non-compliance overall, you can say that pesticide residues, pathogens, and toxins are the main causes. Let's take a look at each of them. Residues is most often it's chlorpyrifos. It was, for example, found 40 times in 2024. ETO 16 times, and pesticide cocktails is also a big one. 35 times it was found in 2024. Cocktails, what are the cocktails? They mean a mix of two pesticides. Often they include chlorpyrifos and other pesticides like anthraquinone, carbendazim, chlorfenapyr, chlorthalonil, clothianidin, thiamethoxam, etc., tolfenopyrat, triazofos, or cyromazine. If you look at pathogens, it's way easier. And the main reason here is salmonella. Must be completely absent, usually transmitted via contaminated irrigation, water, manure, also hands, animals contamination if products are dried outside, and that often takes place in black pepper processing from Brazil. It has been a large contributor to the salmonella issues. The good thing is that the Brazilian black pepper contamination issues went down recently. Since 2022, it's going down already, but it is related to a lower import of Germany of Brazilian black pepper. So then we have the toxins. We have plant toxins, which is pyrrolizidine alkaloids. There's a regulation in place since 2020 with maximum limits in place for example, for cumin seed, it's 500 microgram per kg, and then also dried herbs with higher limit, but still a limit of 1,000 for borage, lovage, marjoram, oregano, and mixtures of these herbs. The number of reported issues for plant toxins grew a lot from 25 in 2022 to 46 in 23 and further to 55 in 2024. And that often relates to PA levels, excessive PA levels in oregano and cumin from Turkey. And then we also have mycotoxins. About 1 out of 12 issues in the database is due to mycotoxins, and that's caused by molds, and mostly involving aflatoxins and aquatoxin A. That contamination can take place in mostly importantly in nutmeg, but we also see it in dried chilies and turmeric and ginger. Most often it's found in nutmeg from Indonesia. If we look at the most common hazards in the past few years, and that is, this graph shows the data for dried spices and herbs only, we see obviously pesticides leading before plant toxins. Yeah, and then within pesticides, it's chlorpyrifos, the main pesticide found, residue found. There is a clear growth of the pesticides and also plant toxins. Salmonella goes down. That has to do with Brazil, black pepper from Brazil. The growth of the first two categories, the reasons for that are several. They relate to developments for certain countries and a certain product. So really a limited range of products and origins. So let's have a look at that. We firstly saw that was a critical issue with ethylene oxide, still causing issues. We have the chlorpyrifos ban since 2020, which is also impacting the numbers, and also temporary increases of official controls. They take place when there's an increased risk considered by the official bodies in Europe. So then we have, let's say, a 30% increase of testing on products from a certain origin. So let's say cumin from Turkey. That can change every year, and from time to time we have updates in that regulation. And in some cases, even, for example, in the case of nutmeg from Indonesia, we have 1 out of 2 containers to be tested on aflatoxins. Other countries that deal with these increased frequencies are Brazil, Ethiopia, India, Sri Lanka, and Turkey. And for each country, there are different products that are subject to that increased frequency. If we look at the products with the most alerts, then we see cumin at place 1, spice mix place 2, chilies, oregano, pepper, and nutmeg. If we go if we look at each of these spices, cumin, there is obviously a leader, India, followed by Turkey. The reason for issues is usually pesticide residues with chlorpyrifos cocktails and ethylene oxide, and also plant toxins with 50 alerts. So India and Turkey lead there. If we look at spice mixes, Problematic spice mixes mostly originate from India, Turkey, and Pakistan. Ethylene oxide is the common problem here. Some cases reported mycotoxins, but more frequently, the tests show the use of unauthorized agents. Examples of unauthorized agents are Sudan colors. Most importantly, you have them number 1, 2, 3. Actually, it's not 100% considered a toxin, but to keep things simple, I put unauthorized agents under toxins. But they are not a natural toxin like the mycotoxins and natural toxins in this group. For chilies, we have also the unauthorized agents used there for the colorization. But most important for chilies are the carbendazim, chlorphenapyr, and fenpropatrin, and other chemical residues, in total more than 30. We also have some mycotoxins in chilies found. There's several countries are facing problems with chilies, but the leading one is India, followed by Vietnam and China. We also have several African countries there. For oregano, it's very much straightforward. Oregano is dominated by Turkey, so obviously all issues with oregano come from Turkey, directly 26 and indirectly 12. For black pepper, it's also very straightforward with salmonella, 22 reports, with Brazil dominating, and Vietnam and India are in second, third place, but far behind. Then we have nutmeg. It's also pretty straightforward, although nutmeg comes from several countries. Indonesia is leading the market, and they also have a serious problem with mycotoxins, including aflatoxin and also ochratoxin, and also the total aflatoxins, which is not always under the limit. 25 alerts in 2 years' time. So remember, these number of alerts are the total number for 2 years. If we make up the balance for dried spices and herbs over the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, there is a clear winner. India definitely masters the number of issues in rapid alert system with more than 150 issues. And Turkey is also not winning the competition, but a good second with almost 90 issues. Yeah, and then there are several countries like Egypt, Indonesia, Vietnam, and China, and Brazil that have much lower numbers, but still serious numbers. Yeah, these countries, they have different standards in terms of production, and they have their own challenges for specific spices. But it makes that these regions are under intense scrutiny for their practices. So whenever you are exporting from these regions, it's important to ensure that the quality checks are being done rigorously. So you have to really check twice before you ship, because the EU customs or anywhere later in the value chain in the European market, these checks will certainly come and yeah, bring the problem to the light. I'm handing over and change the presenter.
You will be keep presenting, Banner.
Yes.
Yes, so please.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Okay.
Stefano can just put up his camera, and you will be closing it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I switched up my camera.
Go ahead, Stefano, and to all the attendees today, you can still ask your questions via the questions tab on the right on your screen. We'll be answering them after this presentation of Stefano.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. We are going to have a brief journey to describe those attention and actions that might be taken starting from cultivation up to the long transportation time to a country of destination. Mainly, I took into consideration as a selling market Europe and United States, but other destination for the goods produced more or less working in the same, having the same dynamics. So we will see different aspect. If it is possible to show the slide, please. Hello, have I lost you? Hello? Anyone online?
You see the next slide
already?
already?
Sorry. No, just I would like to see the first one, just to start from the beginning. All right, okay, because the first slide was not there. So in this brief presentation, I will show basically all challenges the farmers face during cultivation, then post-harvest, which is a very important stage after cultivation. Then we skip to transportation and process, but we can go through the contaminants and the various action that might be taken. Next, please. Right, as explained by Warner before, consuming country have their own sanitary border control framework. In this case, we are analyzing EU and the US. As I told you, in the US, FDA is basically organizing the control and inspection of goods at border. In the EU is the Border Control Unit, who is a centralized unit of the European Commission that organizes the various territorial offices at border. So they are placed in the port, airport, and any major connection ways. The border control mainly prevent, they make a first screening. They prevent non-compliant good to get in. There is an issue in Europe, at least, because the Commission interprets that any spice, no matter of what of the processing stage, is considered ready to eat in product, meaning that they go through very careful and strict sanitary control. While we all know that raw materials might have some critical aspect that can be solved later on with the processing. For instance, the salmonella problem that Warner was speaking before is one of those that can be easily solved by sterilization at the country of destination. All these challenges create a sanitary barrier as well as a regulatory barrier for the small farmers that are not aware of how to deal with this regulation and what they have to do to make sure that the products are in compliance. And also the quality, the standard set by the consumers and by the importers that serve the consumers level might create a high challenge for the producer at origin. Next, please. The first consideration to be highlighted is the importance of good agricultural practices and good manufacture practices, including post-harvest. Obviously, these are a code of practice. You may find some of those in FAO guidelines, some of those in Codex guidelines, and basically they describe the processing and what has to be done in order to safeguard the safety of the crop. They ensure that is the quality of the goods are not harmful for the consumers, and by reducing the contamination during harvest, post-harvest, and processing of the spice and herbs. And obviously they hold the value and the merchantable characteristic of the ingredients. Next, please. This is an example, as Varden already explained, of several contaminants that might occur in spice and herbs at, say, cultivation, production, and post-harvest and the process stage. Overall, we have chemical residues that typically are used to control pest and other disease during cultivation, and those are very important to be monitored. Is important the choice of the pesticide, because not all of them are authorized for the use in food in Europe. One of those has been mentioned, like ethylene oxide has been mentioned before. Mycotoxins, ochratoxin, we have aflatoxin, mainly in spice, but there are other for cereals, for instance, and those are a toxic compound which is a metabolite of a molds, and it's easy to understand, the molds comes from moisture, comes from storage, comes from a point of entry in the commodity, for instance, an insect perforation. So it's basically affected by post-harvest practices. Other natural toxin, as we discussed before, I mentioned generally speaking alkaloids, but before it was specifically mentioned pyrrolizidine alkaloid. These are a natural alkaloid contained by certain type of plant that we usually call weeds, so they are not obviously intentionally cultivated in the fields, that to protect themselves from the herbivorous produce alkaloids in order to enhance a rejection action from the herbivorous, and it prevents them to be eaten. On the other hand, they are very harmful for the health of consumers. So in Europe has been set a maximum limit. In this case, we are talking about the cleanliness of the fields, meaning to clean, to keep the fields clean, to remove the weeds, to separate the removed weeds from the nearby the fields, and to control also that the seed are clean and well selected before seeding. Other processing contaminants that belong to any stage from cultivation to post-harvest to processing are lubricants, fuel, MOA, which is a metabolite of derivatives of petrol, of oil. I can also add smoke contaminants such as PAH, such as furans. All of those are monitored. So in this case, it's important to make sure that they are not leaking from the tractors, from the water pump in the fields, that the water used for irrigation is not polluted by oil derivatives, that after harvest, there is no additional contamination due to machinery lubricants or a drying machine in which smoke goes in direct contact with food. Finally, environmental contamination like dioxin, heavy metal, FAS. There are others like ethanol, but those are more difficult to be managed. The only suggestion would be to make sure that cultivation are not taking place near big cities or industrial areas. Next, please. How to prevent those contamination? As I mentioned before, the area to be cultivated should be in not closer to industrial areas, to cities, and possibly also the water source to be clean. In any case, analyze and monitor it. It is important to educate the farmers to the use of pesticide. It's important that they are capable to identify the type of pest and disease to be treated, because not all the pesticide can do a general work. So they have nowadays we are mainly using pesticide for specific application, and other than that, the pesticide must be used with the correct dose and in the correct time, and wait enough time before harvest in order to make sure that the final residues in the commodity is well below the admitted maximum residues level. Ensure that harvesting, drying, and cleaning storage condition are kept at the best standard to make sure that the harvest is done and the product is not left in the fields, to make sure that the sun drying is taking place on a clean area, to make sure that the storage is in close and tight factories, storage, so that birds cannot get in contact with the commodities, as well as rats, mice, and insects, because all of those pests are a point of contamination also for other diseases like molds and so on. Next, please. So how to educate the farmers? It's important to have meeting, and so moment, I would say some moment in during harvest, in which in front of a specific situation we create a point of discussion, and there are educational and professionals and training taking place. In this case, for instance, here is it was in India. I was in India, in Rajasthan, and we discussed about reduction of contaminants for the environment, and obviously reduction of contaminants in the finished product. Next, please. Other than that, which is all activities that must be taking place at the origin, what can be done? We have to engage the consumer countries. We have to get closer to the requirement from a quality perspective point of view, from a sanitary perspective point of view, and also from a regulatory framework. So knowing exactly what are the requirements once the material is going to be shipped, well before it arrives at the border control unit, that they don't have most of the time not much chance, then reject the lot, and that will be a big loss either for the exporters or for the importers. And at the origin, is important to have some part of the process done, not necessarily 100% of it, but in any case has to be monitored and duly controlled. At the we should not consider secondary the importance of having contact at and advocate with the regulatory entities in a country of destination. That means European Commission of Food and Drink, Food and Drug Administration in the US, in order to present the challenge, to present the difficulties encountered in the country of origin, and to make sure that the agreement can be reached always with the scope to safeguard the consumers, but also this is something very important which has to be highlighted more and more, and is very important for our authorities to hear, to present the possibility existing at origin to fight disease and to enhance the quantity of crop. Especially in this part, it's important to highlight in view of the sustainability, which has been a very important argument for Europe, to make sure that the priority align together, because our priority in Europe is sometimes a bit theoretical compared to the priority at the origin, which is to enhance the quantity of food produced, to make sure that there is enough food for the population, and to enhance the profitability of the crop for the sustain of the families and the farmers. And next, please. So what we could, what are the takeaway today? Basically, the general strategy is to prevent any type of problems, contamination, prevent too strict sanitary regulation at arrival, prevent a regulatory framework that makes difficulties, and prevent that the material is being contaminated during harvest, cultivation and harvest. The quality of work that is going to be done in the fields are fundamental, as well as the harvesting and the post-harvest practices are fundamental to prevent the contamination. In this sense, are important to transfer a good agricultural practices and good manufacturing practices to the farmers at the origin, in order to safeguard the quality of the ingredients. So enhance the cultivation project, subsidiating and not only technology and not only regulatory information, but also educational program in the use of pesticide with the safeguard of resources, in terms of extension of land, in terms of usage of water, and all of these accompanied by a good regulatory and control action in order to advocate also the reason and the rights of the producer in the country of origin. Those key principles keep the value of the goods and keep the merchantable characteristic at the country of destination. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano, for your contribution. So we have like 5 minutes to do some questions. We have some interesting questions coming in. The first question, maybe Warner can answer it, or Stefano. Which is the important certification to do spices business in Europe? So what are European buyers requesting for certification? The most important certifications.
In the food business, generally speaking, I would say BRC and IFS are the most recognized certification in terms of quality of process and quality of food safety. Other specifications are related to eventual religions, habit and provision, like halal and kosher. Other specifications are related to ethic condition and referring to those all those covering sustainable practices and ethical practices.
Thank you. And to the audience, I will also say that we have our study on bio requirements on our website, and there's a special section on certifications as well. And
yeah, and I would like to add FSSC also.
Okay, yes, thank you, Werner.
22,000, which maybe if you look at the global market would maybe make more sense because that's more universal than BRC IFS dedicated to some European countries.
Yes, thanks. We have this other question. What happens if the cargo is rejected at the border? Is it allowed to return to the origin, or is it going to be destroyed at the port?
Well, that is really depending on well, first of all, the interpretation of the border control unit. So it's not really harmonize the action afterwards. It is covered obviously by the regulation. It is possible, according to the type of contamination, to make some corrective actions. So in some cases, the border control unit authorize some process done in Europe. I'm thinking about sterilization, for instance, in case of microbiological contamination. In case the ingredient is considered very harmful for consumers, they will order the return to the country of origin. If the return to the country of origin is not assured, they can order the destruction of the goods. It is important to understand that at least in Europe, in the US, this is not happening, but in Europe, the regulation does not allow to divert the goods to other countries. So yeah, one container arriving in Europe cannot be from origin, cannot be shipped to another consuming market, or cannot be shipped to other countries that they have no safety regulation, with the principle that if it is not good for the European consumers, it's not good for any consumer all around in the world.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. Clear answer. There's one participant who didn't see heavy metals listed or mentioned in your presentations. Do you know why? And do you know about the best practices how to control lead contamination?
Well, sorry, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, in the Rapid Alert System database, there are certainly some heavy metal notifications, but the number is relatively low. I believe it's a maximum of 10 per year or even lower. Over to you, Stefano.
The most challenging heavy metals, obviously, we have lead, cadmium. Recently, has been added nickel in Europe. The most statistically, which is the lead, is the major problem. Also, we had several cases in the US. It mainly come from environmental contamination. Obviously, some quantity of heavy metals might be contained naturally also in the ingredients, like nickel, for instance. So it's not necessarily an environmental contamination. It is very important to prevent the soil to contaminate the ingredients. So avoid heavy industrialized area. Avoid to water the fields if we know that the source of water, river and wells are contaminated. And as a post-harvest and processing, very, very important to wash the ingredients afterwards. I'm mainly thinking about dehydrated vegetables like onion, garlic, and those like that. There are some practices that also are common in the business but create issue, which is to use the outer part of the ingredients, which is obviously in contact with the ground and is the most contaminated. So very big attention has to be paid in this case. Consider that not only heavy metals, but also allergens might come from the ground, from previous cultivation. And the prevention is to make sure that the outer part of the plant and doesn't get in contact with the finished goods.
Okay, thank you. We do 2 more questions and then we go to the next speaker. The next question will be, what kind of organic fertilizer is advised for spices? Is there an organic fertilizer that's good to prevent contamination?
Well, the fertilizer by itself cannot be considered a contaminant. It might increase the microbiological contamination as a secondary effect. If we analyze the organic ingredients, are usually more contaminated than the conventional ingredients, and this is because usually the animal manure is used to fertilize the fields. From this point of view, I'm a bit critical with some of our colleagues. I always suggest to use animal manure if it is possible. First of all, it is normally available in the agricultural areas. It is usually cheap. You don't need to depend on chemical fertilizer. Obviously, the agronomist has to suggest the correct fertilizer according to the chemical characteristic of the land.
Okay, thank you. So we have one more last question before we go to the next speaker. And this question is regarding your presentation, Stefano. What does ESTA stand for and their role?
ASTA stands for American Spice Trade Association, and ESA stands for European Spice Association. Both associations are composed by importers and industries and distributors in those countries. ASTA can be joined as well as ESA can be joined also from third countries, companies and association and farmer association. And RAW is that you ask it RAW. That means RAW. That means raw material means in ingredients which has not been processed. Okay. So let me say farm gate quality. Okay, as it is after harvest or primary processing in the collecting areas.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. So we'll go to Bharat, our next speaker, who will talk about the best practices in avoiding border rejections as an exporter.
So I believe selling to the European market requires work from the field level. And we have been doing that from the farm level. We work with the farmers to build a relationship of trust and transparency. So though they may not be well educated, we share the knowledge of what our requirements are and what the European market is looking at. So apart from working with the farmers at farm level, we have strict controls at farm level. We do testing at farm level from 100% of the bags for important aspects like allergens, pesticides, PA, and all as is required by the importing country. So as you can see, we regularly hold farm to fork programs with the farmers, and we take their feedbacks on what are their experiences and what we can add to make the crops more safer and better. To give an example, for PA in cumin, we have encouraged farmers with a little bit of a financial benefit also when that they could do de-weeding on a regular basis. So such small steps go a long way to get the qualities we desire. So regular field inspections, getting the farmer to the lab for land to lab and lab to land training, and sustainable practices have helped us achieve qualities which are good for the European market. So as I mentioned, regular batches of farmers are brought to our labs for training on microbiological aspects, on what harm the pesticides do, not only to the environment, but also to themselves and the families. So what we are trying to achieve here is good agricultural practices through understanding and convincing the farmers what is good for them for the long term. So these practices we have extended to all the main spice crops we are handling. And we have been continuing this for more than 20 years. And we started way back in the 90s when the sustainable programs had just been launched by the United Nations. Now, after working on the farm level, we use state-of-the-art processing facilities to process the material to highest levels of cleanliness. So we reduce any other risks. We also use steam sterilization to get rid of microbiological risks, and regular passing through metal detectors and magnets to make it of any metal contamination. So real-time monitoring is done on a regular basis, and we are using accredited labs, including our own accredited labs, for testing again for pesticides, heavy metals, aflatoxin, PA, and all the aspects. So the basic fact is testing at field level, testing again during processing, and finally the finished goods. So after multiple testing, make sure the product is safe to send to the European Union. Next slide, please. So here I have listed the basic tests that we need on for all the material prepared to ship to the European Union. All the basic microbiological tests, pesticide residue analysis, heavy metals, mycotoxins, and other tests like moisture, foreign matter, MOSH/MOA, PA, ETO, etc. So this whole package is carried out on every shipment. So nothing is left to chance. We make sure everything is checked in detail in recognized laboratories like Eurofins and Next slide, please. So thank you for your attention, and work from farms to the factory to the European shelf is done in a way that we try to avoid any rejections anyway.
Thank you for the speakers. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, Warner. And thank you for the audience. We hope to see you next time for other webinars in spices or in other sectors. And hope to see you again. Visit our website. Thank you very much.